Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. Boris Kachka is here with us, becoming a film producer, his brand new book from Simon & Schuster. Boris, nice to meet you, man. How are you?
Great to be here.
It's exciting to talk to you. And listen, producers don't always get a ton of shine. We talk about the actors, we talk about the directors, but these producers are really important when it comes to making movies and getting movies made. So what was it like putting this book together?
Yeah, I mean, I should probably start out with the metaphor that kind of guides the book a little bit. Producers, you were talking about how they're important. There was a producer I talked to who was on a set once, and an actor came by and had just been on a tough shoot and said, "What are you guys doing here? What do you do all day?" And her friend, another producer, said, "We're pilots. We get the plane in the air, we fuel it up, we make sure that the wing's not on fire, and we make sure you come down safely." And so that's what producers do, and that's what was compelling to me about writing about their jobs. They're kind of hard to define, and that was part of the fun was figuring out what exactly they do and who they are.
I think it's cool because you establish that in the book, and then you obviously have folks that have been doing this for a long time, and then people are on the rise with it. So what was most interesting, just learning about the mechanics of the job and even just establishing yourself in this crazy business?
Yeah, I think the variety of the job. I mean, it's a managerial job in a way, but it's really hands-on. So depending on kind of where you are in the production schedule, you could be on set, dealing with 1,000 crises, or you could be going phone call to phone call, just trying to get people together on an actor or budgetary concerns. I mean, there are all kinds of skills you have to have. You have to be able to negotiate. You have to be able to count. You have to do spreadsheets. You also have to be persuasive and confident and sell something nobody believes in at the beginning. So I think it's kind of like the diversity of skills and the sort of toggling of activity, in your life and in your brain. That seemed really exciting to me.
We'll hear from producers from films like La La Land and Sideways is another one. What did you learn about how those films came to be here?
The struggle to get it made, just the number of years it took. For what you see on screen in a big opening weekend, seems like such a finished, polished product. La La Land took 7 years to make, and the producer stuck with it the whole time. And there were all kinds of machinations and actors dropping out, and studio wanted to put different producers in, and they stuck with it because they believed in the story. The same thing with Sideways. I mean, it's Michael London was just hung out a shingle, went on his own after working as an exec for a long time, and he had this friend who had this script. It was basically an unpublished book. It was called Two Guys on Wine, and he just believed in it, and he just knew that Alexander Payne was the right director for it. But Payne had all kinds of other obligations and things to do. But he believed in the script, and ultimately the script was what attracted Payne. So I think it's kind of like it just shows that, first of all, the script is the most powerful thing, and second of all, that the producer's persistence and confidence over years is what it takes to get a movie made.
There are just so many incredible stories like that, right? Some folks have to go between New York and LA. You have people who hit it big at Sundance, right? Like, how does the Sundance thing go for producers? Because we hear about directors and movies get bought, but how does Sundance kind of factor in here for film producers?
Yeah, I mean, if you have an independent film, which is kind of like, and I make that distinction in the book, there's a film that starts out studio backed. Obviously you've got your Marvel properties at the top, where it's kind of like it's just like selling real estate or something. It's like, what do we do with this property? But if you have an idea starting out and you don't have a studio sold in, you have to get it seen, and you have to get it in front of talent, and you have to get it in front of money. And one way to do that is Sundance. And so if you have a premiere at Sundance, which already is like a huge hurdle, and you are competing to be that movie that makes the buzz, that makes the difference, that everybody wants to see, and then even after that, you have to find the money. and you have to get backing by studios. And so for every one of those deals that you hear being made like on the fly, like one of the people I followed, Cara Durrett, who had this little movie, she didn't make the deal overnight, and it was a pretty buzzy movie. It took several weeks. But Sundance is one of the most important festivals, and festivals like that are partly about seeing movies, partly about making connections, but they're also markets. That's where movies are sold, and where the little deals are made to make the movies happen.
These film producers you mentioned are the pilots. They're so important, but it takes a long time to get things made. So what's the vibe with these producers? Are they telling people like, no, you don't want to be in this job, you don't want to be in this business? Or are they encouraging to get other folks involved?
I don't think any of them are like actively discouraging people, but maybe I just talk, well, I say that, but there are a couple of people who didn't want their names in there. And they were like, listen, I hate it. I can't take it. I think it takes a certain kind of personality, which is not to say that every producer is the same. Like Michael London's a pretty laid back guy. He can wait on something. Fred Berger, very sort of like, quick and confident and like more of what you think of as a prototypical producer. And Sienna Overman is this young phenom that I talked to. She's kind of more of a worrier, but it takes a certain kind of personality that like is willing to persist and have a lot of failures. But yeah, I mean, all of them said, if you want to make a lot of money and that's the only thing that you're in it for, then like go on Wall Street. You're smart enough. Like you're smart enough to be a producer. You're smart enough to make money on Wall Street. So just go do that.
Speaking of the worries for Sienna, I'm interested in asking you just about the current state of streaming we're in, right? Because there's so many platforms, so many opportunities, but are there more worries or is there more excitement for producers given the state of things right now?
I think it's kind of in a transition period where they don't know how it's going to shake out. And it's a good thing because it's sort of rescued a lot of movies and a lot of producers who work in that middle space, who are the producers that I talk to, just partly because it's my own personal interest, more artistic movies. I'm not talking about like super arty, but just, movies about relationships, movies on the quieter side. The bottom sort of fell out on those movies in the early aughts. And the thing that kind of saved them was streaming. So and then for a long time, like leading up to around now, there was so much demand for content that producers were just as busy as ever. But now you can see like Amazon coming in with like, there's sort of a rebundling, and a lot of them are a little nervous that it's going to contract again and there won't be so much of a market, which may be better for viewers because like, God, there's just too much right now, but not so much for producers, I guess.
Will certainly be fascinating to watch. Boris, congrats on the book, man. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll talk to you down the road, all right?
All right. Thanks a lot for having me.